Hello Internet, this is THSAG with trying to keep this as short as I can, a vlog announcement about Spec Ops, the Holy Shit Gazelle stream. I tried recording this before, but it was 16 minutes long. I'm going to see if I can keep it down to under 10. I got a lot to say and very little time to say it, so here we go. I'm sorry if the trailer didn't exactly tell you when the stream was or all that much about it. It's on July 5th at 4 p.m. Central. It'll be on the THSAG Make Stuff Live Ustream. If you don't know about it, you are missing out on a lot. It's where I make all my Walfus cartoons. It's where I make all my stuff, do my Let's Plays. It's where I get to hang out with my friends. It's where I get to hang out with my fans. It's where I get to turn my fans into friends. It's where I can talk to you guys. You guys can leave me feedback. It's where I do virtually all of my stuff. YouTube is just where I post the final result. But about Spec Ops, the Holy Shit Gazelle. Every year for 4th of July weekend, I do a Let's Play of the cult classic military shooter deconstruction Spec Ops The Line, which is about this, let's see. It's present day. Dubai has been ravaged by sandstorms. The famous Colonel John Conrad has been sent in with his famous damn 33rd to rescue the survivors, but they get stranded. The evacuation is a total failure. So, and there's too many casualties, so Captain Martin Walker, who served under Conrad previously, is going into Dubai with his Delta Force team to rescue him, but when they get there, the city's tearing itself apart. The refugees are fighting the 33rd. The 33rd has gone rogue, and Walker's going to take matters into his own hands to stop the 33rd and find out what's happening with Conrad. And you think it's going to be all heroic gung-ho action, but as Yahtzee put it in his, but it's kind of awkward when the game's standing right next to you going, "Too right, fuck these guys." and eventually says, "Does this review sound too contemplative? Here's some farting noises." I highly recommend. Look up Spec Ops 0 punctuation for, Yahtzee's one of the most easily, best composed rapid-fire comedy reviewers there is, and this stops him dead in his tracks at one point to look at the camera and go, "Remember when first-person shooters were all about killing demons from hell? Those are the good old days, right?" But, funny you mention that, because Spec Ops, the Holy Shit Gazelle, is an attempt to, well, as Joe Captain Face Palmer, the guy who helped organize the Walfus Acon stuff, put it, it's, Freeman's Mind meets Spec Ops The Line. It's full of snarky commentary, a lot of jokes, a lot of stuff that points out the game's flaws, but at the same time, there's also, soundtrack dissonance, inappropriate music, really offensive jokes. I don't know how much else to describe it other than that. Everyone who's watched it last year said it was downright hilarious, and I'm adding more jokes every year that I do this. And it's all done live. It's going to be a blast, I'll say that. But the reason I'm posting this vlog is I'm kind of worried that some of it might be crossing the line. And they say that you shouldn't be worried about offending people on the internet, but this is one of those subjects I take very, very seriously, in that it's making fun of a military shooter. And if you guys know me personally, I'm an active supporter of the troops, and you don't have to be into the politics to support the people, the soldiers. A lot of them have been isolated from their wives or husbands, sons, daughters, families. They've risked their lives for something they believe in. And a lot of them come home with mental scars, emotional scars, physical scars. You see the pictures of, the soldiers of, no arms or the metal legs. And, of course, there are people who stigmatize the troops. They risk their life and they have to come back to people saying this and that about them. And heck, if you look at, there's a picture circulating around right now. I don't know if the numbers are true or not, but it does ring true. That says a couple thousand soldiers have been killed in action since 1999, but also since 1999, tens of thousands of soldiers have committed suicide. And again, I don't know if the numbers are real or not, but it does seem like a very likely thing. And there are a lot of jokes out there, a lot of things that people take very seriously, and we know the difference between something that's being, joked about and something that's a serious subject. And I say this because there's a lot of people who, aren't really into offensive humor, and they're part of my audience, and normally I tell jokes that are like squeaky clean. Well, not exactly squeaky clean. I mean, the last episode of THSAG Tribute Show had a freaking mosaicked Walfus sex scene in it. But normally I don't cross that many lines when I tell jokes. But when it comes to offensive jokes, I believe that the purpose of offensive humor is the same as all humor, in that the job of humor is to hold the spotlight on the things that we find ridiculous in society. In fact, here's my favorite writing guide, a Robert McKee story. If you remember my very first Walfus tutorial, this is the guide I swear by. And Robert McKee described comedy as the angry art. And that's, let's see, if I can, and this is all, let's see, I'm currently up to 5 minutes, so I'm actually making good time. Here's how he puts it. I'm only going to read just a little bit so it falls into, like, proper usage. And again, this is for education, so we're free here. The dramatist, the person who writes drama stuff, admires humanity and creates works that say, in essence, under the worst of circumstances, the human spirit is magnificent. Comedy, however, points out that in the best of circumstances, human beings will still find a way to screw things up. Skip ahead a bit. When we peek behind the grinning mask of comic cynicism, we find a frustrated idealist. The comic sensibility wants the world to be perfect, but when it looks around, it finds greed, corruption, and lunacy. The result is an angry and depressed artist. If you ever say, let's invite some comedy writers over for dinner, that'll brighten things up, that might be good for a little bit until the paramedics arrive. These angry idealists, however, know that if they lecture the world about how rotten the world is, then no one's going to listen. But if they can trivialize the exalted, pull the trousers down on snobbery, if they can expose society for its tyranny, folly, and greed and get people to laugh, then maybe things will change. Or balance. So God bless comedy writers. Where would we be without them? So when we look at all comedy, if you look at any good comedy from Caddyshack to Ghostbusters to Annie Hall, in fact, many romance comedies make fun of the courtship process. We look at comedies that make fun of upper-class snobbery, that make fun of people who take life too seriously or not seriously enough. Whatever the subject is, the purpose of comedy is to shine the light on all things we find ridiculous. In fact, they even have another book, The Comedy Bible by Judy Carter, I'll spare the expenses, that says that the whole basis of a setup, setup and punchline, is to just talk about a serious subject. But the punchline's purpose is to look at the most ridiculous aspect and then amplify it. In fact, George Carlin even talked about that as the entire... all in one take. In fact, that's kind of humorous in itself. Let's see, the ridiculousness that I had all the stuff set up here and it falls down, so comedy bits. All right. So let's see, where am I? But George Carlin basically said that the purpose of comedy is to, again, find something serious and then blow the mother frig out of it. And that is the same with offensive jokes, with dark humor, and that we look at subjects like abuse, violence, insanity, rape, and we all know these are horrible subjects. We all know these are horrible things. You don't need to lecture us on these things because we know they're horrible. But if we look at them and say, this is stupid, this is ridiculous, then we no longer fear them. We know they're horrible, but we can laugh. We can say, I'm not afraid of you, you're pointless, your purposelessness, I'm going to make sure that you don't harm anyone else, so bring it on. It takes the fangs out of the things that we as a society find frightening. The things that make us not able to sleep at night. Probably my two favorite documentaries on war and the psychology of war are Sebastian Junger and Tim Hetherington's Restrepo and Korengal, which are about these troops stationed in the Korengal Valley, one of the most bloodiest places in all of Afghanistan. Faces a firefight every single day, like roughly around that much. And it follows the soldiers, like one of them even freaks out when they find out another one's been hit, but I think the guy actually survived. Like the guy in the post-interview said, yeah, everyone is freaking out, but I survived. Then we cut back and we see the soldiers crying, and then throughout the interviews, you see them with these 1,000-yard stares, just recalling all these horrible things that happened, all the tragedy of it all. So you don't need to like have much of a sense of humor or anything to know that war is a very serious subject, that these things are very serious. But for a few hours, if we can just look at the horror of this war and say, I'm not afraid, this is why this is ridiculous, this is why this needs to stop, then we can be a little braver. It's kind of an interesting way to look at humor, in that it helps us cope, and we don't need to make sense of this stuff, it's mainly cope with it. It takes the fear out and puts the ridiculousness, it makes us see the banality of it for what it really is. That's, I guess, all I can really say about offensive humor. It just takes the things out of the things that scares us. But again, to show that I'm a good sport, and this is kind of the crux of what this post is all about, so I can give back to the soldiers, to give back to the troops, to show that in addition to, I guess, saying, hey, we can face this scary fact, I'm also going to do something a little extra. On Ustream, there's a little metric system that shows how long people watch your stream. Now, I rake in about 48 combined viewer hours. Like, to put it into perspective, if one person watches for 4 hours, that's 4 viewer hours. If 10 people watch for 4 hours, that's 40 viewer hours. I get around 48 hours per 4-hour stream. So, here's what I'm going to do. For every viewer hour that I get, I'm going to donate between... for every viewer hour, I'm going to donate between 60 cents to $1.20. That is about, I think, 1 to 2 cents every minute. And so if one person watches a stream, I'm going to donate around $4. But with the amount of viewers that I'm going to get likely, so I'm estimating around the 50, 60 range, that's probably going to be somewhere between probably $60 to $80. I want to shoot somewhere, like, I'm hoping I end up having to pay $100. Again, this isn't coming out of your pocket, but it's all going to various military fundraisers. And the current list that I have so far, I'm going to split them all up, is first is the Wounded Warrior Project. Doesn't really need much introduction because it's one of the most famous of the charities. Though someone at work suggested, since they said, well, Wounded Warrior has, like, they pay a lot of their stuff towards their own operations. There's a Gold Star Mothers Club and Gold Star Wives of America, which pay directly to the mothers who lost their sons, daughters, or widows of the soldiers. There's Operation Homefront, which provides, and this is just another one of my own, not recommended from anyone else, Operation Homefront, which gives emergency funds to soldiers. USO, which is famous for their shows for the troops, entertainment, and also transitioning projects. They do a lot more than just entertainment. And if you know anyone in the armed services, or better yet, if you are in the armed services, let's see. First of all, thank you. And second of all, if you want to help me help you guys out and recommend any charities, let me know. And yes, this is my way of giving back, of supporting the troops. Again, you folks don't have to support the politics, support the people, because again, they're people. They've had a really rough job and they could use a little help. And let's see. What else? But yes, come for the comedy, come because you come to help a good cause. And you don't have to pay anything unless you want to, but you don't need me to play a video game to do the donating yourself. If what I do compels you to donate something, then by all means go ahead and do it, but you don't have to pay anything. All you have to do is just show up and donate your time, because it's easy to get money back. It's harder to get your time back, because the one thing that we all have a finite amount is time. So for every hour that you spend, I will be donating money to these various charities. And if we get more than, I don't want to break the bank with this. Like, I'm probably going to cap out at like 200 to 250. But if we get a giant audience, like maybe 200 people or something, which I seriously doubt unless enough people spread the word, then I'm probably going to, I guess, do like multiple payments to these charities and see what happens. But yes, Spec Ops, the Holy Shit a Gazelle stream is happening on July 5th, 4 p.m. Central. And if there's weather, I will delay it to July 6th, 4 p.m. Central, or July 7th, 4 p.m. Central. One of those 3 days, but it's likely going to be the 5th at 4 p.m. Central. Weather says it's going to like storm in the afternoon, but it's going to clear up in the evening, which will be the time when I'm going to start the stream anyway. And crap, it's 15 minutes, but this is probably the most concise one I've recorded so far, so I'm going to keep it. So, I hope to see you there. I hope that from this, it might give you a little more sympathy or empathy towards soldiers, or in the least, a little more understanding of how my sense of humor works, or how anyone who enjoys dark, offensive humor works. And with that, I will hopefully see you on the stream, whether or not it's Spec Ops or just me making Wolfa stuff, because seriously, if you want to see how me animate my stuff or do anything, come watch. You could even talk to me as well. There's anonymous chatting, so with that, I will see you for the stream.